The main star in Shatabhishaj is Gamma Aquarii, which the Mesopotamians envisioned as the base of the neck of the man in the constellation of Aquarius. It spans from 16 degrees 40 minutes to 20 degrees of the 11th sidereal Rashi, which is currently equivalent to 0 degrees 46 minutes through 14 degrees 6 minutes of tropical Pisces. To the Vedic eye, the stars of Shatabhishaj depict a lasso, for they literally form a circle at the end of a line. And this shape, the lasso, or sometimes just the circular part of it, is the symbol for the Nakshatra. The deity of Shatabhishaj is Varuna, and he wields a lasso as his divine weapon. Shatabhishaj contains more stars than any other nakshatra, and this is why it's also commonly known as Shatataraka, which means many starred or 100 stars. People usually translate the word Shatabhishaj as 100 doctors, because Shata means 100, or less specifically, a big number. And Bhishaj is a word for doctor, because literally it means someone who brings abhi, ointments, such things that you put on, medicines that you put on, you apply. So that's the literal meaning of the word. The literal meaning of the word saj is to apply. So it's also used to indicate any kind of contact between parties. And that's why it's a word used for love and sex. And it's also a word used for paying attention to something, where you apply your consciousness, you apply your attention, or you watch something. So this name, Shatabhishaj, it also directly implies other meanings, much more appropriate actually than 100 doctors, meanings like 100 lovers or 100 watchers. Shatabhishaj is, like Shravana and Shravishta before it, a Chala Nakshatra. It's a nakshatra that's good for movement. And according to classic Sanskrit texts, movement nakshatras are good at sex too. So as you should expect from the nakshatra named 100 Lovers, which is a movement nakshatra, the Sanskrit classics depict Shatabhishaj as a Don Juan of the Vedic sky. To truly understand what any nakshatra represents, you need to understand the deity of that nakshatra. But this is pretty difficult to do for Shatabhishaj because its deity, Varuna, has undergone more changes in position and function than any other god, perhaps in any culture of the world. But this in itself reveals an important trait of Shatabhishaj: significant, frequent change. So planets that also represent change, like the nodes, or especially Rahu, they are going to fare well here because they have things in common. So they would depict positive changes and the ability to make changes, the ability to change others or change the world. Whereas planets that represent stability, like the sun, putting them in Shatabhishaj depicts unsettling, disruptive changes or unhealthy resistance to change. So let's try to understand Varuna more clearly. Most people think that Varuna is the god of the seas, but this hardly gives you a good picture of who he truly is. Varuna began as the god of all-enveloping, all-permeating space. Indeed, that's what the name Varuna means etymologically. And that's why his nakshatra is Chala Nakshatra. So, because he's present everywhere, it makes him a witness of everything. You can't escape him. You can't escape his glance. So he once originally held the position as the supreme judge of both God and men. And now this meaning of Shatabhishaj as 100 watchers becomes really significant, and you understand how relevant it is. Because Varuna was the ever-watchful one, who's present everywhere, witnessing everything. And so he's fit to judge everybody, even if you're a god. And that's why his star is called the 100 Watchers. So here you can understand another important trait of Shatabhishaj Nakshatra. it sees everything. It sees through the facades. It sees through the smoke and mirrors. It sees through the deceptions, and it judges everybody according to their true quality, without caring whether or not they're supposed to be high or low, and without fear or hesitation. We mentioned before that Varuna wields a lasso. Why does he use a lasso? He uses the lasso, or he used to use it, to arrest the guilty, fraudulent hypocrites who tried to flee from his judgment. So that's why Shatabhishaj is often described in Sanskrit classics as argumentative or rebellious. It doesn't care if you're a god or a man, popular or unpopular, respected or not, it doesn't care what position you have. It's going to assess you, see through you, assess your true quality, judge you accordingly, and if you try to flee, it's going to go after you. It's going to throw a lasso around you and capture you. And it's going to reveal you for who you really are. So in this regard, it's another case where the rebellious nodes or the harsh malefic planets, they would fare well in such an iconoclastic nakshatra. The exception will be the sun, technically a malefic, because the sun is royal and stable. It's not going to be too much clash with Shatabhishaj. Putting benefics in here, benefics have the acquiescent nature, and it's going to indicate a difference, a clash between the nakshatra and the planet. So it's going to indicate problems with rebelliousness and criticism. Varuna is a son of the goddess Aditi, who is space herself. His mother puts him and his brothers in charge of the sky by superintending the sun. So she gave her strongest child, Varuna, charge of the roots of the sky, which is why Varuna superintends the sun through its lowest point, midnight. So even though Varuna is a solar deity in charge of the sun, he's the god of a dark sun, the darkest sun, midnight sun. And this is a clear implication of the empty circle symbol of Shatabhishaj. It's the circle without light, it's the sun without light. And this is why Varuna is classified as Asura. Asura means a dark divinity. So it's not until later on in our story that the Asuras, the dark divinities, became enemies of the Suras, the light divinities. They weren't originally so. They originally cooperated. But the tale of Varuna is going to show you when this change happened. So saying that he's an Asura doesn't mean that he's a bad guy. Although these days we think of Asuras as demons or bad guys. But actually they're just dark forces, like forces of night and things like that. They're important to nature. But still, you'll see that this is an Asura's nakshatra. This is Varuna's nakshatra. Varuna is a dark divinity. So this shows you why Shatabhishaj is considered a countercultural, non-mainstream, underground, midnight sun, dark underworld kind of a nakshatra. So if you put planets with a similar disposition in here, again like Rahu, Ketu, Saturn, they will do something okay. Even the planets in Saturn's camp, like Venus and Mercury, they can make something positive out of being in this nakshatra. But other planets would fare not so well, the ones that are bright and like the sun. Although he was originally revered as the supreme authority of all gods and men, Varuna fell into relative obscurity and was banished to the depths of the seas. The tale of his fall could easily be called the most central tale of all the Vedas and Puranas. And the telling of this tale spans from the earliest segments of the Rig Veda through to the final development of the Nigama in Srimad Bhagavatam Mahapurana. The tale begins when a fellow Asura, a Naga named Vritra, decided, for some reason, which we don't know until the Srimad Bhagavatam finally fully develops the story, but it's not that important to this part of the story. This Naga named Vritra decided to harass all the rivers and prevent them from flowing. So he prevented all the flows of water. And this caused dire drought and havoc to the whole world. But Varuna did nothing to stop it because he had partiality to another asura. He was sympathetic or whatever. He didn't want to fight against his friend. Indra, at the time, was merely the god of rain, but naturally he attacked Vritra, the god of drought, or the drought bringer. So when Indra attacked Vritra, Varuna took the asura side, took Vritra's side, and he brought other gods with him like Agni and Soma. So Indra eventually convinced Varuna and the other divinities to fight on his side, and with their help he was able to defeat the drought dragon, Vritra, and set the rivers free, and brought fertility back to the world. But in the wake of that event, disastrous things happened for Varuna. Because all the gods became inimical towards Asuras and partial towards Indra. They felt that Indra had saved the situation and Varuna had failed to do so. Indra took advantage of that opportunity and usurped Varuna's post. So Indra became the master of the gods and men and sitting at the throne of heaven, and banished Varuna to the deepest sea, making him the husband of the rivers whom he had wronged by failing to protect. So he had this penance. So that's how Varuna fell from that position, as the ruler of Sura and Asura alike, to become merely a chief among the Asura and the husband of the rivers and the god of the deep sea. And because of this great fall, many Sanskrit classic astrological texts associate Shatabhishaj with upsets, loss of fame, dignity, power. But these upsets happen most when the planets that are in Shatabhishaj are not compatible with that Asuric nature. And this incident of the banishing of Varuna is also when the Asuras and the Suras became separated and became inimical to one another. And since that time, the Asuras are constantly fighting against Indra, and now you know why. They're trying to take back what they should have, what was originally theirs. Indra took it away from them and they're trying to get it back. So this shows you what Shatabhishaj is tied up with. It's tied up with the people who got cast out. So Shatabhishaj is a nakshatra of underdogs and rebellious people, revolutionary people. It favors those ideas and people and things which are not at the top, not in the spotlight, not on the throne, but who seek to topple those who are. Planets that will do well in Shatabhishaj are the nodes, especially Rahu. Mars and Saturn will also mostly do well and bring out good interpretations. Mercury and Venus are mixed. They'll become more outstanding and uncommon and dedicated to unusual things, but they'll lose some of their balance and dignity here. The moon has some good things, becomes romantic, etc., but it loses its balance almost entirely here and becomes kind of overboard. It goes overboard in all its desires. Exaggerated. And worst of all are the Sun and Jupiter. They will really be troubled by all this counter-cultural, anti-hierarchical things and have a lot of problems with authorities. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like it, please make sure to check out all the other videos I've done on the nakshatras. Subscribe to my channel, that would be great, so I can keep in contact with you through YouTube. And definitely feel free to like and share the video too, and check out my website, vicdekara.com.